So what we're gonna do now with our piece of paper is we're going to draw what we think forensics is.
I draw somebody who's trying to be bad.
So forensics is finding evidence to solve a crime, kind of like you are a detective.
What's something you guys learned from this video? Dave, Michelle, what's something you thought was interesting and learned from this video?
About fingerprints.
And they kind of hinted at this during our video, but what types of biological hints could help us find someone or find someone who did a crime?
But we actually all have different fingerprints. So if you look at your finger, you might be able to see some patterns, maybe some circles, maybe some other lines on your finger. And that pattern is going to be different on your finger than everybody else's finger in the world. So that's why scientists could use fingerprints to tell who done the crime, because one fingerprint is not going to be the same as another person's fingerprint.
Genetics?
Very, very close. So
It's part of it.
it's part of it. Michelle, do you know the word we're looking for?
DNA?
Exactly.
And DNA is part of our genetics, Jai. So
these are some of the types of clues and hints that can tell us about somebody. So their DNA is really the main thing that can tell us who somebody is. And because one person's DNA is only unique to them, and their DNA is going to be different from everybody else's DNA. And that's why we look different from everybody else. Unless you have an identical twin, then maybe you have the same DNA. The DNA is going to be inside of these other things. There's going to be DNA inside the blood that the scientists can get at to see who you are. There's going to be DNA inside your hair as well. And your DNA also decides your fingerprint. So
with your hair and your parents' hair, we could find out if we just had them randomly in a room. A forensic scientist could figure out that you guys are related.
Because 50% of your DNA, which is like half, comes from your mom and half comes from your dad. So when it comes together, it makes combinations that are unique to you. But you could always tell where those 50% are coming from.
Practice looking at a crime scene to find some clues.
For forensic, it's not like you just create up your own story. You have to make a story based off of the evidence that you see in the picture. So could you maybe try again? Instead of a gun, is there another tool that he could have used to break the window that's in the picture?
A baseball bat.
Exactly. So that's how evidence works. So like we see that there's a baseball bat there. It's evidence. Hey, maybe the crime was done with a baseball bat. First, what is the robber's hands going to leave behind a baseball bat? That might help us figure out who they are.
Maybe they might have fingerprints on it.
Exactly. So a scientist that's doing forensics might look at that baseball bat and say, hey, that baseball bat is a clue. Maybe the robber used the baseball bat to break the window, and maybe their fingerprints are still on the bat, so that I can use the fingerprints to find out who did it. Build clue after clue after clue, and you can add them up. And then that can be really strong evidence and proof that somebody did the crime.
Caleb said, we've got some clues about who might have done the crime. We have a shoe. We also have what looks like somebody's necklace. And we also have a footprint. And like Caleb said, there could be some DNA left on any of these items that might give us an idea of who was at the crime and who might have done the crime. And we also have some clues about how the crime might have happened. 3 crimes were committed at 3 different locations.
We're going to use the tools in our baggies to make a prediction about who did the crime.
What you're going to do is we're going to practice fingerprinting, and we're going to put our little shoe in the ink pad, and we're going to press super, super hard. And then we're going to press it on our index card.
So we know our suspect was at Beau's End, stole a gold coin, and was wearing a slipper. Now we have to think about what other kind of information we need. So this is evidence that one of our
Mhm.
gnomes left behind. Kind of
Mhm.
like in the video, how the owl left behind feathers and
Mhm.
Michelle pointed out the feathers as a clue.
Mhm.
These sprinkles are going to be like the feathers. This is going to be left behind as a clue by one of the gnomes. Who do you think would be most likely to leave behind green sprinkles or glitter?
It's still trying to because she's all green and holding nothings.
Mm.
I think it's also Ralph because he has no shoes and the rest has shoes.
Pay
Mhm.
attention. Listen to what she's saying.
That's a very, very good point, Michelle. And do we notice that Ralph has something next to him in the picture?
Pumpkins.
Pumpkins, exactly.
I really like though that Michelle, even though the pumpkin was right there, Michelle chose to focus on the shoes. I really like that
Mhm.
because in real life, what scientists and what forensic scientists do is they don't only look at just one piece of evidence. They look at a lot of pieces of evidence and that all add up together to prove who did the crime. Because one piece of evidence is never enough. You
Mhm.
always need more than one.
Very good detective skills, and you were able to put all the clues together. Welcome back, and we're continuing off of our forensics lesson from Monday, where we covered DNA, and that DNA contains the instructions on what makes us who we are, and all of us have different DNA, including your DNA from your parents and you and your siblings and your cousins are all related. So there are some similarities between the two. Oh, what is our DNA in?
Like fingerprints, or like blood
Cells.
Say it again.
Cells.
Your DNA could also be in your hair.
saliva, maybe.
You guys nailed all of the ones that we had and we talked about. Saliva, fingerprints, blood, and hair. Now, can anyone tell me what our fingerprints might be found on?
Our devices that we use.
So basically any object we have to.
There we go. Exactly. Anything you touch, your fingerprints are on. So Sophia's holding her straw right now. We could collect her fingerprints from her straw. Giovanna's also holding her water bottle. Her fingerprints are all over her water bottle. And anyone else who touches those objects, their fingerprints are also still on there too. So let's welcome Miss Angelina. She is a forensic scientist at the LA Sheriff's Department. She went to USC for her undergrad, and she is currently a lecturer at CSU right now, California State University.
It's nice to meet you all. Once again, my name's Angelina. I have a presentation to share with you today. It's mostly about fingerprints. What is a fingerprint?
A fingerprint is basically, I think, something that you leave behind or like a print on your finger, like fingerprint.
A fingerprint is a mark that is left behind. The reason that it is left behind is because our fingers have something called ridges on them. You know that I'm a forensic scientist, so why would someone like me use or be interested in fingerprints, and when would I be interested in using a fingerprint?
So you would want to learn about fingerprints is because if you want to become a detective, you need to use that to like solve crimes, and you need to use fingerprints for like things that are like been like crime, because like some people might have stolen something from a store or something, and like anything they touch you could find their like fingerprint on there.
We use them when we unlock our probably our devices.
Mm-hmm.
It detects our fingerprint, and we also use it to like go into places so they can identify us.
Is there a specific place that we might use our fingerprints?
Airport.
DMB.
Yeah.
If you're a criminal, you could give it to the police office. To jail.
We could use them in crime scenes and forensics.
Yeah, exactly. These are all wonderful answers and they're all true. So we use fingerprints in forensic science. Forensic science is the job that I do. And so as a forensic scientist, I use different types of science. So things like biology, chemistry, physics, sometimes even math. I use all these different types of science to help me look at evidence from crime scenes so that I can analyze the evidence, figure out what it means and how it's connected to people, and then help solve a crime. So forensic science uses science to help analyze evidence and solve crimes. What are some other types of evidence or other things we look for in the field of forensic science?
Some things that forensic scientists look at is hair, blood, DNA, maybe like fingerprints and like
Yeah.
those stuff.
I am a forensic biologist, so I specialize in things like blood and DNA. Once we gather all the information that we can, we'll go to court and we will testify in court about what we found. What I want you to remember is that forensic scientists use science to solve crimes, and we're using this science to look at different types of evidence that we might find and learn more about it. Prints so special. What makes them a great type of evidence?
It's like the video said, all fingerprints are unique. We can trace a person, like most likely because no one else has the same thing.
Fingerprints are really special because you're born with them and you're born as an individual. So that's how like people could tell like which one is who because of your fingerprint. And your fingerprint can tell like most of like your whole body. Like it could tell everything, like your DNA, your blood, anything you touched. It could like show everything just by one fingerprint.
So fingerprints are special for three main reasons. The first reason is one that we covered. Fingerprints are unique to you. Unique means different, one of a kind. There's another reason that fingerprints are so special. In the video, we learned that fingerprints develop or form when we are still in our mother's wombs. So when we're not even born yet, our fingerprints are forming. But as we get older, you would expect those fingerprints to change, right? Maybe when you're 70 years old, you would think that your fingerprints will look different from when you're a baby. But what we've actually learned from studying this is that fingerprints don't change over time. And third reason that fingerprints are so special is that they can be put into groups. And so your fingerprint as a whole is going to be unique and special, but it can fit into one of these three categories that we have here. And grouping them makes it easy to organize them. Yes, Sophia.
Just saying, but mine is a world.
First type are loops. Loops are fingerprints where the ridges or the ridge lines start on one side, loop around once, and then exit on the same side. Whorls are a little bit different. The ridges on a whorl, instead of being like a loop or a horseshoe pattern, it looks more like a circle. And there's different types of whorls you can have. Finally, my favorite, we have arches. With arches, the ridge lines enter from one side and end up on the other side. So they kind of just go across. They're not looping around and they're not in a circle. They kind of just go across. You can have a plain arch or maybe even a tented arch where it goes up a little bit, but it still comes down on the opposite side. Is choose one finger. It's easier if you do your pointer or index finger or a thumb. Use the ink pad to get ink onto that finger. Your balloon, right? And try to put your balloon on a flat surface so that it's easier. But what you're just going to do is take your ink finger and transfer, get this as flat as you can, transfer your fingerprint onto the balloon. and try not to let it get smudged. So what you're going to do next, first take a look closely at your fingerprint. You kind of have to bring it close to your face to see all those details, right? But the great thing about a balloon is that they can get bigger. And so what you're going to do is blow up the balloon. If you know how to tie it, you can tie it, but blow up the balloon and see what happens to your fingerprint. Can you all tell me, why might it be helpful to see our fingerprints enlarged? Why?
Because it enlarges the patterns and details.
Can anyone tell me if they know what pattern type they have on their balloon? Is it a loop, whirl, or arch? Yeah.
It's like making little triangles.
Oh,
Like
interesting. I would love to see it closer. Let me see if I. Oh, yeah, you have arch. Those are arches. Yeah. So you're rare. Another rare person. Very interesting. Oh, we just did one of our fingerprints. Let's try to do all of them. So we're going to use our same ink pad. But now we're going to get out our template, our fingerprint identification template, your entire print pattern on here. This is what mine looked like when I did it. As you're all working on this, I want you to look at the different pattern types you might have. Not all of your prints will be loops, not all of them will be whirls, not all of them will be arches. They might look a little bit different.
The loop is on the middle.
Of your
both of my index fingers have the arch.
Ooh.
So for left hand, for index, middle, and ring pattern, I have loops. And for little pattern, I have an arch, plain arch. And for thumb pattern, I have a whirl. For right hand, I have for index, middle, and ring pattern, I have whirls. And for little pattern, I have another arch. And for thumb, I have a whirl.
Thank
Like if someone is born without fingerprints, doesn't that mean they get away with crime scenes?
So you would think, right? But if you get someone's fingerprint and you can see that it like doesn't have a lot of lines, maybe it has a few lines or ridges, right? But not a lot. That's still unique to that person because the rest of us have a lot of lines. So if someone has very few or someone has scars, right, in certain places, those scars are still unique. So even though it's not like going to be a normal pattern that most of us have, we can still track someone down.
If I have a whirl, can I get that from genetics?
Great question. So yes, the answer is yes. The overall pattern type, so whether you have a loop, whirl, or arch, that is something that can be passed down from your mom and dad. But when you zoom in, like we did with our balloon and we saw those small details are randomly formed. So that
We're going to draw what we know about forensics.